Hey again, everybody. Professor Nelson here, and to let you know that we are on Chapter 15. After this chapter, there's one more to go. And you'll have a test, of course, and translations coming up after this unit. And I guess be advised that even though this is the final test, that the test is over these last 4 lessons. It's a unit test, not a comprehensive final, except that, of course, language builds on itself. So in some ways, by the time you get to Chapter 16, you've wrapped in all the information from Chapter 1 through that point. It's comprehensive in that sense, but it's still taken from the exercises and the homework and the information from these last 4 lessons. So let's get going. We're almost there. All right, so Chapter 15 is numerals and uses of the genitive and ablative with numerals, as well as one additional ablative, the ablative of time. Latin numbers, you may have noticed that we've learned a whole lot, and we're just now getting to numbers. And usually when you learn a language, about the first thing you learn to do is count. In Spanish or in French or German. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is that we're not speaking Latin to each other, and so it's not as imperative to learn the numbers, and they're not going to come up as often. The second is the numbers are really idiosyncratic in Latin, and you need to know something about declensions, and 3 of them. As well as about cases and about adjectives before you can learn how to do the numbers. So you can't just start counting in Latin. You have to have a bit of groundwork beneath you before you can get to that point. Numbers come in 2 forms here. One is cardinals, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the other names of the numbers. The others are ordinals, that is where something takes place in an order, like first, second, third, or fourth. Cardinals tend to be nouns. Sometimes they're used as adjectives, like 5 men or 6 cupcakes. Whereas ordinals are most assuredly adjectives. The 5th cupcake, I didn't feel so good. But whereas the ordinals occur regularly. Ordinals are adjectives, and so in Latin they decline like 3 termination adjectives. You just have to learn the vocabulary names, but they modify masculine, feminine, and neuter nouns, and so they have us, endings and decline appropriately. Cardinals, however, are a bit weird. There are some of them decline, and most of them don't. And what I mean by this is that 1, 2, and 3 decline. They have different declensions assigned to them. Unus a works like one of those unus nauta adjectives that we did when we first did demonstratives. Duo, duai, duo borrows a bit from different declensions in order to finish things out. I'll let you look at how that's done there, but pay attention to it. And then 3 is a 3rd declension adjective, tres tria, kind of a I stem, as a matter of fact. And so this is strange enough in itself, but from 4 all the way to 999. All the rest of those numbers are just, none of them decline. So if quinque is 5, is quinque in any case. Sex as 6 is 6 in any case. So we have to go all the way to 1,000, or mille, in order to get to another number that declines. And in this case, it doesn't decline in the singular, like 1,000, mille. It's just mille, 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 mille. But it does decline in the plural, milia, or thousands. Isn't that bizarre? You probably would like to know why this is the case. And I'm happy to tell you that I have no idea whatsoever. So all I know is that in order for you to be able to read the language, you got to follow the language along and its idiosyncrasies, and this is one of them. So you're going to learn to count to 20 and recognize and read other numbers in the readings and the translations you'll be doing. But study these few cases carefully, because 1, 2, 3 occurs quite a bit, and 1,000 can be kind of, well, not only occurs quite a bit, but recognizing what's going on is usually necessary when you're doing dates and reading historical accounts where numbers of troops and that kind of thing are included. So, in any case, pay close attention to those. With numbers, there are a couple of expressions that that languages use and that have particularities in Latin that you need to learn. One is that when you want to indicate that there's some number of a larger number, we in English tend to use of or out of, as in 5 of my friends, or part of the city, or 6 books out of the library. Well, here in Latin, these expressions are handled either by a genitive, and it's called, in this case, a genitive of the whole, because the thing that's in the genitive represents the set out of which the number is a subset. So, for example, in English, if I say I have 5 books, that's not a genitive of the whole. It's just there's 5 books. The whole number of books is 5. But if I say I have 5 of the books, that indicates there's more than 5 books. But I've got 5 of them. I have part of the whole. If I say I see part of the city, the part, of course, is a part, only a portion of the whole. But the of the city lets me know what the whole is. So in Latin has a lot of expressions of this kind, not only with numbers, but things like quid novi, which is what of new. Or you can say nihil novi, nothing of new, or like nothing. So somebody can ask you quid novi, like what's up, what's new? And you could say nihil novi, like nothing's new. Other expressions are things like pars, that's a part, pars universitaria, or universitaria, part of the university, or quinque librorum, 5 of the books. All of those are genitives or partitive genitives, genitives of the whole. Another expression is using an ablative with x, and this occurs when there's a certain number from out of a group or out of a larger number of objects. For example, put a couple of examples here in Latin. Multi ex amicis meis, many out of my friends. Now, there were many of them. I don't know how many friends I have, but many of them would not be all of them. And so when I say multi ex amicis meis, I'm indicating that this many is taken out of a larger set of my friends. Same thing with quinque ex numero nostro, or nostro numero is what I've got here. 5 out of or from our number. Now in Latin, nostro numero, the word numero is number, but in Latin this comes to mean a group. So quinque ex nostro numero would be 5 from our group. In any case, both the genitive of the whole, or a partitive genitive, or an ablative with x can be used to delineate subsets of larger sets of numbers. It's all kind of obvious, but only when you know what you're looking for. So now you know. The last thing is you can learn another, in this chapter, is you learn another kind of ablative. And this is an ablative of time. There's two kinds of expressions of time. One is time within which, it's the time at or within which the verb happens, and that's in an ablative. Later we'll get to a duration, an extension of time for how long. That's a different kind of expression. In Latin that occurs in the accusative case. But for here we're concentrating on an ablative. And this kind of ablative is often called the ablative of time within which, because just as early on we saw that an ablative can indicate action that takes place within something, this is action that takes place within a period of time. So expressions like we saw the whole city in 6 hours. In 6 hours is an ablative of time within which, because we saw it within 6 hours. Other expressions that are very common are things like eo tempore or illo tempore. At that time, something happened. In this case, septem crustulorem abit. At that time, 7 of the cookies disappeared. Well, it sets a time within which the verbal action happens. This means that so far, if you were to name kinds of ablatives, you've learned 4 of them. You've learned 2 that don't have a preposition. These are the ablatives of means, that tell us with what the verb is done, and time, which tell us the time within which the verb happens. The other 2 both occur with the preposition cum, or with, and those are ablatives of manner, that tell us in what fashion or in what manner the verb happens. Oftentimes translated easily in English into an adverb with ly, and ablatives of accompaniment that tell us with whom the verb, or in whose company the verb is done. You'll be asked to identify these in the readings, of course, and on the quizzes and the tests, but the purpose of that is to make sure that you, in your reading, understand the function that these phrases or words have in the sentence, so that you can be sure that you know what the real meaning of the sentence is. Well, that's all for this chapter of Something New. Of course, things have been building up, and you've been building up a pile of language and a whole bunch of new knowledge. And so it's kind of like a cumulative snowball. You've got a lot to keep track of. So make sure you get your homework on time and get it in so that I can give you help if you need it. And if you need other help or have other kinds of questions that I or other people in the class can answer, please post them on the forum for that. And I'll see you for the last chapter coming up next.